Okay, we've successfully extracted our motors and gearboxes from our Thunder Tumbler to get started on our MiniSumo. I got just a little bit more disassembly to do on this before I get too much further into it. So I got out my big pliers. We're going to take this little white fitting off there. All that does is it's got a hexagonal end on it that fits into the wheels, the wheels we took off there, but we don't need that. Plus, look at how long that is. If we left it on, see, you're only going to have like 5 centimeters on each side of your MiniSumo to be within your 10. See, that's 7.5 easy with that white thing on there. So that'd be like a 15 centimeter wide MiniSumo, which is just about half again too big. So let me see, I'm going to go ahead and use this way. I don't know if I'm ever going to use these or not, but I'm going to try not to monkey them up. Try not to mess them up too much. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this under the camera or not. Let's just pull that. Can't do it holding it out here. Came off on the other one I did, came off pretty, wasn't real hard, but this one not good for some reason. Let's see that. So if I can't do it, I just cut them off. Or something. Not getting very far, and I'm monkeying up the end of that shaft a little bit. Not really much of anything to pry on. Okay, if I could figure out my editing software, this might get edited out. There you go. So I just pried it off with my needle nose. There's one down, and there's that little. This is for the LED in the wheel. Remember, the contacts over here, the electricity goes through that, and it's just got this little thing soldered on right there. Kind of an annoyance for us, but whatever, we'll deal with it. Plus I got a bonus on this one. Boy, I got a lot of hair on it. Whoever had it last was, I don't know what they were driving it through, but there it is. Okay, so I didn't need my other pair of big pliers after all. Now I'm going to, like I said, I'm not real hot on my editing software, so things might get a little jerky on this one, because I'm going to have to turn the camera off occasionally while I go do stuff out in the garage. And one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off for a minute and do something. I'll be right back, and then we'll get back to work on these, and hopefully it won't be too jerky, or maybe I'll figure out my software. One of the things that's kind of hard to do with these things is measure them, because there's all this stuff in the way. Makes it hard to get your measuring device right over there next to the axles to see exactly how long they are. So you're eyeballing it, which really ain't going to work out very well. So what I've done is I took a piece of just like cardboard, like a cereal box. I like to keep just a little bit of this around for stuff like this. And now I can put this, I cut this gap in here that's just a little under 5 centimeters long. So now I can just set that right on the axle and see, you know, do my measuring using this thing here, because this is what I'm shooting for. This is my target axle length, and so, you know, like I said, I can just put that right up there. I'm going to trim this plastic piece here, wherever you can see it. This plastic piece here I'm going to trim back just a little bit, and then I'm going to cut this piece off because these will fit pretty much right up next to each other. You know, like with the axles in line, I could slide it up pretty far. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut a lot of this out of here so that they'll sit in there closer together. Then I won't have to cut as much off of this end. So I'm going to go do that now. And when you're doing stuff like this, these are all plastic inside. So you're not going to want to use a tool that's going to create a lot of heat. In general, when you're working, this is kind of off the subject, but in general when you're cutting metal, cutting, filing, grinding, anything like that, you want to, when you're removing metal mechanically, cutting, filing, grinding, whatever, you want to avoid heat. You don't want to get it hot. Because you can, some metals are tempered and you can ruin the temper and stuff. In this case it's more because there's plastic gears in here. This is, you know, plastic, these are really the bearings and they're plastic. The gears inside are plastic. So I don't want to heat all that stuff up and melt my bearings and my gears and stuff, knock everything out around or whatever. So I'm going to use, I'm going to go ahead and use a rotary tool on this because I have a really aggressive blade that'll cut through the plastic without creating any heat. And I'm going to use a hacksaw. Just do this by hand. Use a hacksaw and cut this off, and then a hand file, and I'm going to just take the burrs off that end. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I got to cut this off. There's no choice. Well, I guess I could file that off. I remeasure it, cut it off with a hacksaw, and then I'm going to round the end just slightly with a file. So I'm going to go do that. It's going to take me a while. Hopefully everything will be okay when I get back. I'll talk to you in a couple minutes. Okay, I'm back. Done butchering these little gearboxes. While I was out there, I noticed that these aren't exactly the same as the other ones. So if you're working if you're using a Thunder Tumbler and you're trying to do the same thing here, you got to be just kind of be aware of what's going on with it, you know, as you're working it. And if what I'm telling you to do won't work, it's because you got a different one. Apparently they're not all because the way I noticed it was on the other one, I trimmed down these little pieces on the back end, and I could touch those literally, so I had a lot more room for the axle. This one, see, I can still get a screwdriver in between there. They won't touch at all. And what I noticed was that on the other one, it doesn't have all this, like this little tab on the motor here where it's got the lead soldered on. On the other one, one of them was bent over and one of them was just soldered to the can of the motor, which you can get away with. But so that took all this stuff out of the way. But on this one, it's all there. And I'm not going to try taking it off. I guess I could take these off here and just bend that over. Then I'd have to be careful not to, yeah, it'd be alright because it'd be over here next to the plastic, it wouldn't short out. But I already cut this other side down. I don't know if you remember, there was a, yeah, see, here's another one. I got another one right here. There's a different bracket on here. No, that's there. This little bracket here where it was mounted in the car, I cut all that off to get more room to put the wheels on, because I want to be able to get as much of the axle as I can. So I cut all this bracket off, trying to get as much of this exposed as I could, because I can't get those together. But now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm back inside looking at it, I might take this little bracket off and bend that down, and then I can get them closer together by quite a bit. Not sure what that'll buy me now because I've already cut the bracket and everything off. I'm going to use wheels similar to the other one. These are off of a little toy truck I've got. a little toy truck I bought. I just have to drill that out to match the size of the shaft and push them on there, and I can push it all the way till it touches this thing right here. So if I hold that up there and look at it, and here's my cardboard thing, that'll still, see, I don't have to worry about it. Well, I got, that's still within my, that's not where I'm going to be though. Yeah, I'm going to have to cut that off and bend that lead over because I don't have enough room there. So anyways, we'll do that in a minute. That's my wheel I'm going to use. It has little skulls on it. I don't know if you saw that. It scared the other MiniSumo. So while I was out there, I thought I might give you a few pointers on using these things too. This is standard everyday hacksaw. You know, nothing special about it. Just wanted to point out a way to get a little more life out of your blade and really make your life a lot easier. I've seen people, they'll grab both ends and they'll just like lean on it to cut faster. That doesn't really buy you much. What I was doing out there, I was literally letting the weight of the saw itself was all the pressure I was putting on them to cut them. It makes it a lot easier to move it back and forth and stuff like that. And you don't really need to put a ton of pressure on it. It just dulls it faster and stuff like that. And then the teeth on these blades, on hacksaw blades and stuff like that, are facing forward. So when you're pushing is when you're actually cutting. When you're pulling, you're doing nothing. So if you're, especially if you're one of them people that's leaning on it, go ahead and let your pressure go as you're pushing forward. Look, no blood or anything. And then lift up on your pressure as you come back. Because the only thing, as you're coming back, the only thing pressure is going to do is knock your teeth down and wear out your blade faster. And then it'll just frustrate you in the long run. It'll get dull. And it's harder to use. And then another thing to do is try and use all the whole blade. Another thing I see a lot of people do is cutting like this. And they're only using an inch or so of the blade. You know, you get a lot more life out of it, a lot easier using everything. You use the whole blade, or as much as you can. Obviously, you see I don't use the whole blade. You can see where the paint's worn off from here to here. So, you know, I'm guilty of not using the whole thing, but at least I get most of it. And then the similar thing with a file, the teeth on this are pointing forward as well. So as you're pushing forward is when you're actually doing your cutting. When you're pulling back, go ahead and lift up, because all you're doing if you drag that thing back with pressure on it is knocking down the teeth, which just reduces its effectiveness in the long run. It'll quit cutting sooner. I mean, this thing's old. Look at that. It's been around for I don't know how long, and it still works fine. There's quite a few flattened teeth on there, but it's alright. It still goes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do what I was talking about. I'm going to take these screws out. Might as well do that right now. And see if I take this bracket off, if that motor is just going to fall out or if it'll stay in there. Pretty much. It's one of the things you're going to have to do as you do these kind of things. You're going to have to be able to troubleshoot, spot where something's not working, and adapt. That other one that I was using, pops right out. So I might have to figure out something to do about that. There are magnets. I don't know if you know how a motor works, but there are magnets in it. So everywhere where I was cutting and grinding and stuff, a lot of those metal shavings stuck to the side of my motor. I'll go ahead and take as much of that off as I can while I got it out of the gearbox. So I'm probably going to have to figure out a little something to keep that in there. Maybe so it's back in where it needs to be. I don't think it's going to fall out. It looks like I can also adjust where I put my leads. So that's going to work out, because I can put them, yeah, I can turn that. So I can turn those until they'll get past that other piece. So thought we were going to have a problem. Turns out it's actually going to work out better in the long run, probably, because I'll be able to get those closer together. I don't know if I threw that other screw completely off my table or not. Pop that thing out of there and clean off this one too. At least get some of that, you know, see, that can get down inside there and it's not going to do me any good. Having all that metal down inside that motor is just going to ruin it. So I'll just go ahead and clean that off. Take a peek at this one. See, I got those, there's these two knobs. It's almost straight across from those two knobs. So I'll put this, see which way was it. The one across from there is a little lower, so we're going to do that here. Find my two knobs, put it in there right about the same, and it's the gear's engaged. I can hear the motor turn when I do that. So now I can put those right there like that, and they're going to fit real nice and tight. So the only thing I'm going to need to do is figure out a way, see, almost fit in there. If it weren't for that, they'd fit in there really tight, almost touching right there. I just have to get that, figure out a way to keep my axles lined up, because if I put my axles in there like that, when I go to use the differential steering turning, I'm going to turn one faster than the other. Well, if they're offset like this and I turn this one faster, it's going to turn real well. If I turn the other one faster, be alright, I guess. This one's going to kind of fight it, I think. See, if you have them farther apart and look at it and imagine, this one is going to have to go all the way around this one to pivot that way. It's going to have a lot farther to go. Whereas if you have them this far apart at this angle, this one's already in the lead. So it's going to turn one way better than the other. Got a little more cleanup to do here. But that's about it for this. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to another subject. So I'm going to turn off the camera here in a second. And then got some homework to do, because I got to figure out how I'm going to keep these in alignment while I stick them together. And I have a lot of, look at that, I have a lot of option as to where I put them too. And without this bracket, I'm going to be able to get those tires way down, wheels way down on there as far as I can. This is going to work out better than that one. That one I cut these too short and had to build a little bracket on there and put threaded the end of the bracket and screwed it in. And they started the first test, both the wheels promptly fell off. So this one's going to work out a lot better. Like I said, we're going to go to a different subject here in a second. I'll talk to you in a bit.